All right, so Intel, huh? Pretty crazy ride they've been on, right?
Like 3 years ago, their stock was flying high at $60 a share.
And now, bam, down to 19.
Makes you wonder what's going on, right?
Is this a chance to buy low, or is it a sign that things are about to go even more south?
Well, we wanted answers ourselves, so we rolled up our sleeves and dove into some Forbes articles, even braved the wilds of Reddit.
To bring you the inside scoop on Intel.
And let me tell you, it's juicy.
We're talking about a company that practically invented the computer as we know it, and now they're fighting just to stay relevant.
Yeah, it's a real fight out there.
It is. It really is.
The tech world moves so fast, it's like
You know.
trying to keep up with, like I said,
Yeah?
processors, how fast they change. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. And get this, we found some Forbes articles with some seriously different opinions. One says Intel could bounce back, like all the way back to $60 by 2026.
That's triple your money.
But then another one comes along and says, nope, headed down to $10.
Wow.
I know, right? Total opposite ends of the spectrum.
So today, we're not just looking at headlines. We're going deep, figuring out why these experts are so split.
We have to. I mean, this is about understanding the fundamentals,
Absolutely.
the technology, who they're up against, the whole picture.
Exactly, the whole 9 yards. So let's start with the optimists, shall we? This Forbes article, it's titled, How Intel Stock Can Surge 3x to $60.
And it's seriously gung-ho, like they're cheering for Intel from the rooftops.
Okay, so what's their, main argument? Why so bullish?
It's all about new chips, baby. And a comeback for PCs, maybe. Oh, and a big push into, you guessed it, AI.
The magic words these days.
Right. So they're putting a lot of faith in these new chips Intel's got coming out. Lunar Lake for laptops and Arrow Lake for desktops.
Interesting.
And they're claiming, flat out, these chips could blow the competition out of the water.
Okay, so new chips are always exciting, right? But to really get why these have people buzzing, we got to dig a little deeper. We got to talk about this thing called process technology.
Basically, it's all about how tiny and powerful they can make those little transistors on a chip.
Smaller the better.
Right, exactly. Smaller means more power packed into the same space. And here's the thing. Intel's had some issues with their 10-nanometer process, which is kind of technical.
But basically, it means they've fallen behind competitors like AMD.
Oh, so they're playing catch-up.
Yeah, you could say that. But these new chips, they're supposedly using a much more advanced process.
So this is their chance to get back in the game.
Precisely.
So it's like Intel's been stuck driving this old, beat-up car.
I get it.
While their rivals are zipping past in, like Ferraris and these new chips.
This is their chance to finally get behind the wheel of something sleek and powerful.
Exactly. But, and this is crucial, AMD isn't just sitting around waiting for Intel to catch up.
Right, they've got their own stuff cooking, don't they?
Exactly. They've got their own next-gen chips in development. So even if Intel manages to close the gap, it's not going to be a walk in the park.
So it all comes down to execution.
100%. Can Intel actually deliver on these promises? Can they manufacture these chips on a large scale without any major hiccups?
Because, let's face it, they haven't always had the best track record.
I mean, remember those delays with...
Yeah, and those were costly.
They were.
So, yeah, lots to prove for Intel on that front.
Okay, so new chips. Big, maybe. But this article, it's not just about the chips, right? They're also banking on this whole idea of the PC market making a comeback.
Right.
Like, people are going to dust off their old laptops, realize they're, dinosaurs, and suddenly there's going to be this mad rush for new computers.
I mean, is that even realistic? I feel like everyone's glued to their phones and tablets these days.
Right. I mean, you're not wrong. The PC market, it's definitely shrunk. No doubt about it. People just aren't replacing their devices as often as they used to.
And yeah, when they do, they're often going for those more, portable options.
Right.
Tablets, phones, you name it. But here's the thing. There are a few things that could work in Intel's favor here.
Like what?
Well, first off, when the economy gets a little shaky...
People tend to hold on to their money a little tighter.
Makes sense.
And laptops, they're generally cheaper than smartphones, right?
Right.
So folks might be more likely to go with the more affordable option, if they're feeling a little pinched.
So Intel could actually benefit from a downturn.
Potentially, yeah. And second, there's always going to be a need for those really powerful machines.
Yeah, for gaming, video editing, all that stuff.
Right, the stuff that makes your computer sound like a jet engine about to take off.
Exactly. And those high-performance chips, that's Intel's bread and butter.
So a little hope for the PC market, but I'm still hung up on this whole AI thing. This Forbes article, They seem to think Intel can just waltz in and take on Nvidia.
And like, come on, that's like bringing a slingshot to a tank fight.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, Nvidia, they're the kings of AI right now.
And Intel thinks they can just, undercut them on price with these Gaudi chips, and that'll be enough.
Yeah, it's a little more nuanced than that. See, Nvidia's success with AI, it's not just about having powerful chips, which they do, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they've also spent years building this whole ecosystem around those chips.
What do you mean, like an ecosystem?
Think of it like this. You've got the chips, right? They're like the engine of a car.
Okay.
But you also need the transmission, the wheels, the steering wheel, the whole shebang for that car to actually run.
Right.
And for NVIDIA, that's their software tools, libraries, developer community, all of that.
Ah, so it's like they're not just selling the engine, they're selling the whole car.
Exactly. And it's a pretty sweet ride, which is why developers love them.
Makes sense.
So for Intel to compete, they can't just offer a cheaper engine. They've got to convince people to switch to their whole car.
And that's a tough sell when NVIDIA's already got everyone hooked on their model.
Exactly. It's a steep uphill battle for Intel.
Okay, so we've got new chips, maybe a PC comeback. AI is a long shot, but they're taking a swing.
But there's one more thing this article really hypes up, and it's their 18A manufacturing process.
Ah, yes, 18A. This is where things get interesting.
So what's the big deal with this 18A thing? They've been shrinking transistors for years, haven't they?
They have. But 18A, this is different. This is Intel saying, we're back, baby.
Okay, but how? How is it different?
Think about it like this. Every time these chip companies manage to shrink those transistors, it's like squeezing into a smaller pair of jeans.
Okay, I'm with you.
At some point, it gets really, really hard to go any smaller.
Right, you're going to pop a seam.
Exactly. Well, 18A, it's Intel claiming they found a way to break the laws of physics, to squeeze into those jeans, even if they're like 2 sizes too small.
That's a bold claim.
It is. And they're not just keeping this supposed breakthrough to themselves.
This article, it suggests Intel wants to become a major player in what's called the foundry business.
Foundry business, so like making chips for other companies.
You got it. See, most companies that design chips, like even Apple, they don't actually manufacture them themselves. They outsource that to these companies called foundries. They're like the master craftspeople of the chip world.
So Intel wants to be the go-to chip maker for everyone.
That's the idea. They're saying, hey, we've got this amazing new process, 18A, anyone want in? It's a big gamble.
It's huge. So to recap, we've got Intel pinning their hopes on new chips, a maybe resurgence of the PC, a long-shot bet on AI, and this whole foundry play.
You got it. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But remember, we've only heard one side of the story. We've got that other Forbes article, the one that says Intel stock is headed for a crash down to $10.
Ah, right. The pessimists.
And they weren't exactly impressed with Intel's grand plans.
So what's their main beef?
One word: revenue.
Or lack thereof.
Exactly. They're basically saying all those fancy new chips, the foundry dreams, it's not going to be enough to actually grow their business.
Why not?
Well, this article, it argues that Intel's facing like an all-out assault from competitors, and not just AMD.
We're talking NVIDIA in the AI space, and then there's this whole other thing, these ARM-based chips.
Right. Those are becoming a bigger deal.
What even are those? They sound like something Iron Man would have in his suit.
They're not that far off, actually. ARM-based chips, they're already powering most smartphones. They're known for being incredibly energy efficient, which is why your phone can last all day without needing a recharge every 5 minutes.
Which is a big deal when you think about it.
Right. But why are they a threat to Intel?
So, for the longest time, Intel was king of the computer and server world. They use this thing called the x86 architecture. Think of it like the language those devices understand. Right. ARM is a different language, and it's gaining popularity fast.
How so?
Well, companies like Apple, they're already using ARM-based chips in their MacBooks, and even Amazon, they're using them in their data centers.
Seriously? So Intel's facing a language barrier. That doesn't sound good.
It's not ideal. It's not an immediate crisis, but this shift towards ARM, it's a real threat to Intel's long-term dominance, especially in that super lucrative server market.
It's like Intel's this once mighty kingdom, and suddenly they've got enemies at the gates speaking a language they don't understand.
That's a pretty good analogy.
And this article, it suggests Intel might not have the weapons to fight back.
Because of this ARM thing.
It's a factor. But they're also still hung up on Intel's manufacturing woes. Remember those 10-nanometer struggles we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're saying 18A, they're saving grace. It could be another stumbling block. Delays, missed deadlines, you name it.
And that could really hurt their credibility, especially if they're trying to be a big player in that foundry business.
It's make or break time for Intel.
Pretty much. Nail this 18A thing and they've got a shot.
Mess it up and, well, it's not going to be pretty.
So what's the verdict from the peanut gallery over on Reddit? Are they Team Intel or are they jumping ship?
You know, yeah.
Of course. I gotta love Reddit. It's like the world's most entertaining financial forum. So what are they saying?
It's a real mixed bag.
Yeah.
Over on our value investing, there's definitely some cautious optimism.
Cautious optimism. So like holding their breath but hoping for the best.
Yeah, something like that. Some folks over there, they genuinely believe Intel's too big to fail.
Interesting. Like a too big to fail bank.
Exactly. They're pointing to that Cheat PS Act,
Yeah.
The government funding for semiconductor manufacturing.
Right.
They're saying that's like a safety net for Intel. And plus, with the stock price so low, they see it as a classic value play, buy low, hope for the best.
The old buy low, sell high strategy.
Exactly. But of course, it wouldn't be Reddit without some, let's say, less optimistic voices.
Well, I'm sure there are plenty of those. So what are the Intel haters saying?
Let's just say the D word gets thrown around a lot.
Dinosaur.
Bingo.
Ah.
And sinking ship, blockbuster of the tech world, you name it.
Ouch. When a company's stock takes a nosedive like that, people don't hold back, do they?
Nope, they do not. But beneath all the drama and the memes, there's also this undercurrent of doubt
Doubt about.
Intel's ability to really compete in this new landscape.
It's a tough industry, constantly evolving.
Exactly. And some folks on Reddit, they're just not convinced Intel's leadership has what it takes to turn things around.
It's like they were the kings of the hill for so long, maybe they just got complacent.
Could be.
No.
It's easy to rest on your laurels when you've been at the top. But in this business, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind.
And speaking of moving forward, over on that R-Stocks thread, there was a lot of talk about Intel's ability to, attract and keep those top engineers, the real wizards of the tech world.
The talent war.
Because you can have all the fancy factories and ambitious plans, but if you don't have the right people to make it happen...
It's a non-starter. The chip industry, it's all about brains. And right now, companies like Nvidia, Apple, they're like magnets for top engineering talent.
So how does Intel compete? Just got to throw money at them. Like, here's a blank check, come work for us.
It's more than that. Salary helps, obviously. But these engineers, they're not just in it for the money. They want to work on cool projects.
Right. They want to push the boundaries.
Exactly. They want to be challenged to work with the latest and greatest tools.
And they want to be part of something, exciting.
Exactly. Intel needs to convince these folks that they're not just yesterday's news, that they're building the future.
It's like putting together an all-star team. You need a really compelling vision to attract the best players.
And then you need to create a culture where those players can thrive. Give them the freedom to experiment, to take risks.
Otherwise, they'll just take their talents elsewhere.
Exactly. There's no shortage of opportunities in this industry.
Okay, so big picture time. We've been all over Intel, the good, the bad, the uncertain. What's the takeaway for someone looking at their stock right now? Buy, sell, hold your nose, and jump.
If only it were that simple.
Right.
Anyone who tells you they have a crystal ball when it comes to the stock market, they're probably selling something. But look, we've given you a lot to think about today.
We have. We've looked at the potential upsides, those shiny new chips, the foundry ambitions, that maybe, just maybe, PC comeback story.
And we haven't shied away from the downsides either.
The competition, the execution risks, the ARM elephant in the room.
Exactly. So now it's about you. What would it take for you to feel confident investing in Intel?
Is it seeing those new chips hit the market and just blow everyone away?
Is it a string of killer earnings reports that prove they're actually turning things around?
Or maybe it's something totally different.
That's the thing about investing. There's no one right answer.
It's all about your individual circumstances, your risk tolerance, your own gut feeling.
So do your own research, folks. Don't just take our word for it.
Read those articles, explore those Reddit threads.
Form your own opinions.
And whatever you decide, don't bet the farm.
Wise words. This market, it's a wild ride.
Intel's story, it's far from over. That's for sure.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you every step of the way.